So, one of the main topics of our show is 12-step programs, which mean AA and NA. They're very popular, no doubt about it, but are they actually effective? Now, we're going to get to that in a second. Uh, we know we're going to talk some NFL, we're going to talk some UFC, we're going to talk some NBA, we're going to talk some Major League Baseball, we're going to talk some basic news. That is what Strange Talk with Doc's about. It is a news program mixed in with worldly things. And I always like to start off with my worldly topics. So let's go back to this again. 12-step program, AA and NA. They are hugely popular, but are they actively effective? Okay, let's start this out by just saying some people go to NA and some people go to AA. And I want to preface this by saying I am not knocking NA. I'm not knocking AA. I'm not knocking Alateen, or any of these programs. If it fits for you and you maintain your life through these programs, I say go with God. If it's religious group you join and stay clean and sober, fine. If it is a support group that you go to stay clean and sober, I'm with you there too. And I also have to state this, and I'm going to do it 2 times. I am not an addict. I am not an alcoholic. I am not a recovering addict, and I am not a recovering alcoholic. So from that place, I do not speak. But I have been around enough people over the course of my life who have suffered through both alcoholism and drug addiction to know a few things, okay? Now, let's be honest. Some people go to NA and some people go to AA only because they need a signature for their PO, their parole officer. So let's get that out of the way. They're not there for any other reason but to get a signature on a piece of paper to show that they are doing what is needed to be done to stay free from prison or jail. My question is the same one that I ask all people who go to NA or AA. When do people become ex-addicts? When do people become people who have overcome their addiction? These programs make it so that you have an incurable disease. Now, think about this. People get in remission from cancer, they get in remission from all kinds of diseases, but you never become in remission from drugs or alcohol. You never, 30 years down the line, you are still an addict, you are still an alcoholic. Okay, I believe that AA and NA bring you down. They make you talk about your downfalls more than what brings you up. They knock, you are always powerless, you're always lost, you're always uh, just one step away, one day away from blowing up. Where's the you have done some good? People have to come to realization that there's reasons why they quit, not a support group. Some people quit because they get deathly ill. Some people quit because they get pressure from their jobs, their families, and they no longer can deal with uh, being an addict. Some people quit for shame. Some people have just ran its course. The alcoholism, the drug addiction has just ran its course. Some people have it because it's a violation of their parole. Now you have to think about this. When you in what they call these rooms, who is in those rooms with you? Could it be a rapist, a pedophile, a murderer, a thief? I mean, if you are also on parole or probation, now I don't know the letter of the law on this one, but fraternization with other known felons is against the laws. So can you lose your rights by being in the NA or AA group? There might be 10 other felons in that group. You know, I understand that getting help is life and death. Getting help is life and death. But powerless talk is cheap. That's bullshit. We have powers. We have control over our being. Even if it's in a weakened state, there are some controls over our being. You don't just piss on yourself all day. You don't just willy-nilly get in a car and decide to slam it into other cars on the highway. You are not totally powerless. You might lack some control over a situation, but you're not fully powerless. You must have real change. You have to have real change to your gut, honest level. Things about you need to be gone. Things about you that are positive need to be built up. This powerless bullshit is ridiculous. Now, the thing I really don't like is the cult-like behavior. You know what? You're no longer lonely. Everybody's going to welcome you in. They're going to make you feel like you're a member of a group when you might have been an outsider, and that might have led to your drug addiction. All of a sudden, hugs and come back for more and slaps on the back and stupid ass keychains. People celebrating your anniversary when the friends in your family might not have even gave you a birthday call. You get coins. So it makes some people feel good to be wanted, to be accepted. But we also have to realize there's no such thing as a one box fits all. You do not all fit in one box. Every addict's experience is not going to be exactly the same or nowhere near the same as another addict's experience. You have to realize it is okay if AA and NA do not work for you. You might be a person who needs to get therapy. You might be a person who needs to be on medication because your drug addiction stems from a psychological, emotional, or physical trauma that you may have suffered. You do realize that your sponsor is also an addict, probably more than likely an untrained addict. Is your sponsor a predator? Does your sponsor prey on those who are weaker, who just came into the program, and then they act like they know it all, where they could sexually abuse vulnerable women or maybe even vulnerable men? What about this? If you go to meetings in your direct community, a neighborhood that you grew up in, how much anonymity do you truly have? Wouldn't those people know you? Wouldn't those people know your family members? They would know your name because here's the part of it, it's anonymous. So being anonymous means automatically you should be seeking meetings outside of your local community so that people don't know your personal business, but they can't use it against you, where they can't call this up in a conversation and it makes crowd. Because that's a part of being able to look somebody up and finding out who they are. In this day and age of social media, you could put in a name and get enough history on an individual. But because there are no last names involved, you don't know if that person is a sexual predator. You don't know that everything about that person, right? I mean, like I said before, some people are going to need therapy. Some people are going to need medication. Some people are going to need long-term rehabilitation. Some people are going to need detox because detox might come with withdrawal symptoms, which you will not be able to address in an NA or AA group. If somebody comes in an opiate addiction, you can't tell them one day at a time. They might have to kick a habit that could put them in physical harm. So they need to go somewhere first. They need to go somewhere that is not aligned with NA or AA standards or meeting principles. You know what? Uh, there's also this thing about the apologies. If you apologize to someone for doing them wrong, and if they don't accept it, it's on them. That's bullshit. Sometimes you have done things to people where it is almost they have to be spiritually and religiously so connected to accept your apology that it's ridiculous to even put that on them. You have put enough on a person that you hurt. Now you're putting the added pressure on the individual by saying that if they don't accept your apology, which might not be sincere because it's just a step and we don't know how hard anybody actually works on steps, that it's not fair. And then there's also, what about the religious beliefs? There's a lot of times I'm looking at these 12 steps where they mention God. God, God. What about a person who goes in there that's agnostic or straight up just does not believe in any form of a higher power? They can't even really get past the second steps in these groups. They will always be an outsider in this group, you know? Also, AA, NA do not teach self-discipline. They do not teach self-discipline. They do not tell you that you are responsible. You have a lot of responsibility with what goes on with you. We're not talking about little kids. We are talking about adults. I went to a AA meeting once with a buddy of mine, and there was a guy in that particular room who had 27 years of not drinking. He claimed to have no desire to drink. He claimed that he doesn't even get tinges to drink. He knows how to be around people who drink, and it's no problem. So I asked him, I said, man, how after 27 years are you still calling yourself an addict? I mean, you don't get no pride, no sense of pride in the fact that you've made it 27 years of being sober. I mean, most people on the planet don't have 27 years of being sober. But you're acting like just yesterday you were laying in a fucking gutter somewhere, rolling around begging for change. And I call bullshit on that. There has to come a time, and I know I said this before, but there has to come a time where, you know what, these slogans are not going to get it. They're not going to cut it. I mean, see, like I'm from Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and I knew enough people who ended up in what they would consider this nightmare called Phoenix House. Phoenix House was one of the first rehabs that most of us in the hood ever heard of. You know, where people had to be responsible. They had to wash, they had to clean, they had to do these menial tasks that they were not doing, because if they were running around as a crackhead, they wasn't even keeping their upkeep. But these slogans, and let's get at some of these slogans. One day at a time. Yes, we all live one day at a time. That's not that profound. Easy does it. What are you going to do? Do it the hard way? You've already been doing the hard way by being an addict. Let it go and let God. How does that fit into an agnostic or a person who does not believe in a God? Spirituality versus religion. Now, there is a big divide or chasm between spirituality versus religion. Religion is an organized set of rules and regulations that have a deity. Spirituality could be somebody that's into 500 different forms of religion. Keep it simple, stupid. See, here's a problem here. If you already telling somebody that they're stupid, there is nothing else they can do but actually keep it simple. Them trying to act intelligent will prove their stupidity. Progress, not perfection. We all seek progress in our lives because we cannot obtain perfection. It is it's beyond our grasp to be perfect. No man is born to be perfect, will be perfect, or does anything perfectly. We just don't do that. We do it to the best of our abilities. Nothing changes if nothing changes. Things are constantly evolving. Things are constantly changing. There is nothing on this planet that does not change day to day, year to year, week to week. Circumstances change. Lifestyles change. Atmosphere changes. You will find change. First things first. What is the first thing that's first? What is that, and how does that apply to all individuals? First things first. What are they even getting at? Faith without works is dead. Faith without works is dead is biblical. So I'm not even going to touch on that one. Okay, I'm an alcoholic, drug addict. I'm a dry alcoholic. I'm a dry drug addict. What the fuck is that? Either you're using or you're not using if you get down to the basic of the gist of the problem. Are you sober today? If you can claim that you are sober today, but your personality isn't fitting in with the people around you, do they have the right to call you a dry drunk or a dry addict? No, you're clean and sober. And you might have 5 years in. Who the fuck? Why do you allow people to take things from you that are not theirs to take. You have the right. And I'm talking to you, AA member. I'm talking to you, NA member. You have the right to not tap yourself on the back, but not be robbed of success also. And a chip, a clip, an anniversary, and a keychain is not what you're there for. You're trying to get control back over your life, but then your 12 steps say you are powerless and you have no control and you're unmanageable. I mean, why? Why? I'm trying to figure that out. We admit to God and to ourselves and to other human beings the exact nature of our wrongs. After you admit to God, you've already, when you talk to God, you're already talking to yourself. There's no need to talk to another human being about the exact nature of your wrongs. The exact nature of your wrongs might get you incarcerated. Make direct amends to people when possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Yes, that's good. See, but they don't let you know the addendum to this is if they don't accept your direct amends, then it's on them and not on you. I say, if you are suffering from any drug or alcohol problem, get to the true root of what causes you to use. Do you use because you were enjoying it? Do you use because you're mastering pain? And like I said, get yourself a therapist. If you need medication because you might be bipolar, you might suffer from PTSD, you might have issues that are deep rooted and long term. They go all the way back to childhood that have never been addressed. You are not going to get what you want in a cult-like situation like AA and NA. But I wish you the very best. I wish that you get that quote unquote monkey off your back, that you become an example. See, to be an example to other people, you must either be a total failure or you must have some success. And a powerless, I have no control person trying to convince somebody else to get it together doesn't even make sense to me. So these cliches and this bullshit, it's gotta go, man. I mean, but if it works for you and it has helped you, take bits and parts of it and make that work for other people, because we don't get to keep anything unless we truly give it away. So if you found some keys, if you found some ways, if you found some coping mechanisms that you can help other human beings with who are suffering through addiction, I don't care if it's leading them to a mosque, a temple, to meditation, opening their eyes to some literature, some books that are heavy, that touch on some things that they might be dealing with. Do that. Do that. Help. I'm not ever going to tell another human not to help another human better themselves, because we better ourselves as we better others. And I thank you for listening through that. And if you have any feedback whatsoever, just reach out to me. You could tell me where you thought I was dead wrong. You could tell me if you think I should go fuck myself. I love to hear from you, okay? And I'm going to move on to the regular portion of the show now. So this week I get a text message, right? I get a text message from a Mrs. Tammy and Cliff Webster, Powerball winners. I forget where they were from. I believe they were from Wisconsin. And well, here's the gist of the text. The text goes on to say the couple is going to donate $120,000 to 50 random individuals. And the recipient of one of these uh, donations is me. And all I have to do is call this number. Well, I spoke about this on other podcasts. If you are not ever looking to con anyone, you cannot be conned. Out of the blue, Mrs. Tammy and Cliff Webster didn't pick me out of a cloud. No way, shape, or form did God bless me with these people saying that they're going to just randomly give me money. So I instantly deleted this. But don't get yourself caught up in this, because this is how a scammer gets you. They offer you something that is well beyond your imagination. They feed on your ego by telling it you in some strange way deserve this. Now they get you on the phone, and this is where the slick word comes in. They're going to have a hard seller on the other end of the line that's going to tell you to receive this money, you probably have to send them some kind of money to clear the money coming to you for legal fees or whatever. So don't get caught up in bullshit like that. And come to think of Powerball, tonight, Powerball is $610 million. Now, I'm not telling you to gamble because you might have a gamble problem. We just spoke about addiction. But for $2, you could take a chance and go to bed tonight and dream of being a $610 million winner. And I hope that $610 million, when you win it or if you win it, that you will use that to help others who are less fortunate than yourself, okay? The House Select Committee has issued a subpoena to former President Trump and order him to testify before the panel on his alleged role in his efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. There's a lot that goes along with this. There's no set date that he has to appear. He still has to. I never even heard of a subpoena where you have to basically accept the terms of coming and testifying, but we know he'll plead the fifth. He's not that dude. He's not that guy who's just going to stand there and be grilled. And it's disheartening to find out that they throw things at him that is still optional for him to do or not do. So I watched the last two episodes of The House of Dragon. The finale was last night, but the week before was bugged me out. Queen Allison, she runs around with this gimp, Lara Strong. Well, we find out that this dude has a foot fetish. And when he started wanking off in front of the queen, I mean, think about it. This is the queen. And for her to get information, and there's like 9,000 other ways that she can get information out of that man, including using Sir Christian to rough him up and make him give him information. They can make this dude live in a cell for the rest of his life. But she's allowing him to degrade her by wanking off to her feet when he's not involved in her life like that. Now, all I will say, because I really can't speak on the last episode, is the Hightowers and Targaryens are going to war, people. So next season, when we start off, we're going to start off already hot and heavy. The talking is over. I know the story. The talking is over. It is time for the dragons to dance. I tried to watch a show called East New York. I watched the first 3 episodes, me and my wife. This show is fucking ridiculous. It made no sense. I wanted to give the brothers and sisters a chance on this show and maybe become a fan, but the show is just not good. They consistently talk to people as suspects. Attorneys never show up. Attorneys are never offered a chance to show up. Nobody's ever read their Miranda rights. But when they had the one white suspect in custody, and within 2 minutes of them talking to him, his attorney was knocking on the door telling him this interview is over. But the poor young blacks and Hispanics, never once did they see or even hear the word Miranda. I also started watching American Horror Story, NYC. Now, for some of you who might have a problem with it, the show is almost all gay. Okay? Every character is almost all gay. It's based around incidents and circumstances that happen to gay men, lesbian women. So if you are uncomfortable with that, and I think there's some real knuckleheads out there who are dumb enough that are programmed, they can't handle people from other cultures. Oh, you know what? Then go fuck yourself. But American Horror Story is pretty good. I enjoyed the first 2 episodes. It seemed like it's going to be, or the first 3 episodes, it seemed like it's going to be really creepy this year because we got a serial killer of gay men who is taking body parts. And so if that's your type of horror, I think you should be able to enjoy it without the gayness or the gayness, okay? So the New York Yankees were swept by the Houston Astros. I'm disgusted. I'm disheartened. I am angry behind this. Aaron Judge batted a whopping .063. I'm going to repeat that. Aaron Judge batted a whopping .063. .063 for the man who's more than likely going to be the American League MVP, for the man who just broke the American League all-time home run hitting championship. This fucking guy, man, I cannot believe it. I have thought about this long and hard. Aaron Judge is not going to be, nor does he deserve to be, the captain of the New York Yankees. I don't really give a fuck if he even remains a New York Yankee at this point. I want Brian Cashman going. I want Aaron Boone going. DJ Mahayu, if he can't fucking stay healthy, he needs to go because he's in his 30s. We're stuck with Stanton. We are stuck with Stanton. But we don't have to be stuck with two dudes making over $300 million who don't show up when they need to show up. Adonis Chapman, he can go. I mean, the Yankees have got to make some sweeping changes. See, this is when you miss the boss. This is when you miss Daddy Steinbrenner, because he would not entertain fools. And if he didn't think that these men had the heart, the desire to do the right thing and go out there and be killers on that baseball field, he would part ways with them. You know, there's no Derek Jeter on this team. There's no Paul O'Neill. There's no Bernie Williams. There's no Posadas. There's none of that. There are no guys who are even close to these top. There's no Scott Brocious on this team. These guys, you know, Aaron Judge seems like he's more worried about his fucking image and how he's perceived. He can't even celebrate breaking 100-year-old records. He could barely lift his hand to do a little tap. I mean, you know, a lot of that is bullshit. And you see these other teams. You see the Phillies, who beat San Diego, by the way, 4-1 to go to the World Series. So Bryce Harper's in the World Series when he blew his chance with Washington. These dudes have enthusiasm. They have character. They are out there. You could see that they want this bad. You never see that from the Yankees. I never even see that. I mean, this was a team that started off 56-20 and to barely get by, and I mean barely get by the Guardians. They had to go to 5 games to get by the Guardians. They didn't look good doing that. And to just shit the bed totally against the Astros, become the Astros bitch for the 3rd time in 6 seasons, I'm disgusted, man, and changes need to be made. The UFC had a fight card. I believe it was in Abu Dhabi. I just want to give you some heads up on this. People are going a little crazy on Sean O'Malley and Petreon. Sean O'Malley got the split decision to win this fight. It wasn't like this was some devastating Petreon got robbed type deal. That's bullshit. It wasn't. This was a close fight. I could have seen it going either way. And Sean O'Malley proved that he has to step up. Now, I didn't like his post-fight interview where he said some bullshit about he's going to have to look at the film and see where he goes from here. Man, it's the champion or nothing. If not, you're just here to make money and state your claim that you don't give a fuck about the championship. All you want to do is fight guys who are below you on the card. I mean, because this was 1 versus 2, and that means whoever wins gets the championship. And that is it. You fight the champion or you move on. Islam Makhachev beat Charles Oliveira the 2nd round submission to claim the 155-pound title. Those guys that are with Khalib Magomedov, they're beasts. Do I particularly like how they all fight for the most part? No, they're master wrestlers. They're not going to really do a lot of roundhouse kicks. None of the exciting stuff you're going to really see. But if your thing is watching a dude grind somebody out, then you will love all these, as my wife calls them, cousins, because they all got the same beard, same hairdo, same fucking face, and they're all from the same region of the world. So it's like you see one, you've seen them all, except for Khalib is Magomedov is like on a different level than anybody on the planet. Beneil Dariush beat Mashev Germont by unanimous decision. That was all right. Belal Muhammad beat Sean Bradley via TKO in the 2nd round. Belal looked pretty fucking good in this fight. He was the smaller of the two physically, but his hands were on point. He said he's been working out with Magomedov, and it showed because Sean Bradley wasn't able to take him down. So that was entertaining. And I can't forget Aljamain Sterling just completely and utter abused TJ Dillashaw, and he beat him by second round TKO punches. TJ's shoulder wasn't right. I don't believe that TJ deserved, after one fight, an opportunity at the title after being suspended for 2 fucking years for drugs. It didn't make sense that he was just pushed up the card past everybody else, and Aljamain housed him and showed him that he did not deserve to be there. I mean, there were other fights on the card, but I think that I spoke about the ones that were the most outstanding. Now, on 10/29, we got UFC 63, and that's coming out of Vegas. You got Calvin Kattar versus Arnold Allen. Andre Arlovski, who's 157 years old, is fighting Marcus Rogerio de Lima at heavyweight. You got, who else is on this card? Decraw Close is fighting Mark Madsen. Max Griffin is fighting Tim Means. Josh Freem is fighting Tishawn Gore. Tishawn Gore has to either state his claim to be a legitimate UFC fighter, or everything that he did on The Ultimate Fighter will go to waste. We also have Dustin Jacoby is fighting Khalil Roundtree on this card. Steve Garcia is fighting Chase Hooper. So that shouldn't be a lousy card. That should be a pretty good card. Now, in the NBA, I like to give you what I consider to be the games of the week only. Okay, tonight we got the Nets versus the Grizzlies. I mean, that's star power out of yin yang. Ja Morant, you got Kyrie Irving, Durant, Simmons, so that should be something. You got the Suns tomorrow, 10/25. You got the Suns versus the Warriors. Or the Warriors are going into Phoenix to play the Suns. You know what's going on with those teams. Then on 10/26, you got the Nets going against Giannis and the Bucks. 10/27, you got the Heat with Jimmy Butler versus the Golden State Warriors. On 10/29, you got the 76ers versus the Bulls. And on 10/30, you got the Nuggets versus the Lakers. The Lakers are off to an 0-3 start. They do not look good. They have some problems. They are old. They are not what people think they are. I have the Lakers by mid-November being 8 games below 500. And I'm off to a good start because they're starting the season 3 games below 500. So they're making me look good right now, but we'll see how this goes. NFL. The Panthers traded for Christian McCaffrey. They sent him over to the 49ers, and we'll talk about McCaffrey a little bit later. But let's do the wrap-up on what happened yesterday in the NFL. Well, Thursday, the Cardinals beat the Saints 42-34. They moved to 3-4 and snapped an 8-game home losing streak. And the Saints dropped to 2-5. Neither one of these teams right now, unless they have a hell of a second half, are doing or going anywhere. Yesterday, the Ravens beat the Browns 23-20. Gus Edwards scored 2 touchdowns. He's coming back from a long-time injury. The Ravens finally held on to maintain a victory. It wasn't like the Browns wasn't charging back at the end, but the Ravens actually held on. The Panthers beat the Bucks. This was a shocker, 21-3. Brady, in the beginning of the game, hit Mike Evans with a bomb. On the first series, hits Evans right in the hand. Evans drops a clear touchdown. So the Bucks and Brady are now under 500. They are 3-4. And when was the last time Brady was 3-4 after 7 games? P.J. Walker actually played for the Buccaneers, and DeAndre Friedman ran for 118 yards. Chuba Harris also ran for 63 yards and a touchdown. The Panthers actually, without Christian McCaffrey and P.J. Walker at quarterback, managed 343 yards of offense against the Bucs defense, which is supposed to be stout. The Bengals beat the Falcons 35-17. Joe Burrow was out there balling. He completed 42 passes for 481 yards and 3 touchdowns. Boyd and Chase each finished the first half with over 100 receiving yards and a touchdown. My Dallas Cowboys beat the Detroit Lions in a game that I was not expecting to be this low scoring, 24-6. Dak Prescott returned and got the victory. The defense was stingy. The run game for the Cowboys was strong, and that's why they won that. They caused some timely turnovers. They played some stingy defense. They had Goff confused. They had some key players out like Acamedius St. Brown. Swift was out, which was to the advantage of the Cowboys. So the Cowboys won this game. The Titans beat the Colts 19-10. Derrick Henry rushed for 128 yards on 30 carries. Tennessee has swept the series with Indy now for the second consecutive year. The Giants beat the Jaguars 23-17. You know, the Giants, once again, fourth quarter, they come out there fourth quarter. Saquon runs hard. They get a little victory. Now they're 6-1. And this was a nail biter, though, for Giant fans. Christian Kirk caught a pass from Trevor Lawrence and got stopped at the 1 yard line as time clicked off the clock. So the Giants were almost lost this game on the very last play. But, you know, what a difference 1 yard makes, right? Next, second biggest shock of the weekend, the Commanders beat the Packers 23-21. The Packers have now dropped 3 games in a row and are 3-4. Nobody better not tell me that Rodgers was spectacular, because he was only 23 of 35 for 194 yards, but he did throw 2 touchdowns. The Packers were 0 for 6 in this game on third down. They lost to Taylor Heineke, who went 20 for 32 for 201 yards, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. So Taylor Heineke beat him and the running game because they played good defense. Like I said, if you stop a team and keep them for 0 for 6 on third downs throughout the game, you should more than likely win. The Raiders beat the Texans 38-20. The Raiders finished with a season high 400 yards of offense. Josh Jacobs rushed for 20 times for 143 yards and 3 touchdowns. This is the third straight game that Mr. Jacobs has actually rushed for over 100 yards. They needed something moving on that offense, and Jacobs is starting to become the key to what's going on there. The Jets beat the Broncos 16-9. There was no Russell Wilson due to injury. This was the 4th straight victory for the Jets, improved their record to 5-2. Who would have thought that? Who would have thought the Giants would be 6-1 and the Jets would be 5-2 at this point? The Broncos have now lost 4 straight games and they are 2-5. But the Jets did lose Breece Hall, who had a 62-yard touchdown in the first quarter to knee injury. We're hoping for the best for this young man because he's been balling, and I'm hoping it's not anything bad. I don't even want to put a term to what it could be. I'm just waiting for the reports later as I watch sports shows. They'll tell me. But I'm wishing for the best for him. The Chiefs beat the 49ers 44-23. Patrick Mahomes threw for 423 yards and 3 touchdowns. Juju Smith-Schuster is starting to fit in with that KC team. He's like a hybrid tight end meets wide receiver, and it's starting to click. You know, Christian McCaffrey had 62 yards on 10 scrimmage touch in his San Francisco debut. So they used him out of the backfield, and they used him catching the ball. So if he can get 62 yards on 10 scrimmage touches and didn't even have a solid week with the team, he might become issues down the line. We know he's a baller. The Seahawks beat the Chargers 37-23. Rookie Kenneth Walker III rushed for 168 yards and 2 touchdowns. Geno Smith, who has to be one of the surprises of the year, he completed 20 of 27 passes for 210 yards and 2 touchdowns. Both the Chargers and the Seahawks are 4-3. I did not see the Seahawks being 4-3 at this point because we all thought they would fall apart without Russell Wilson, and that has not happened. But they might have lost DK Metcalf to injury. I will never assume what the injury is until I have something substantial to say. So I wish for the best for any player who I have to mention might be injured. The Steelers lost to the Dolphins 16-10. Tua Tagovailoa returned from his concussion. He finished the game 21 of 35 for 261 yards and one touchdown. Miami snapped their three-game losing streak, and the Steelers fell to 2-5. This will not be a 500-plus season for Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kenny Pickett was 32 for 44 for 257 yards. He had one touchdown, but he threw three interceptions. Now, a game I will not stay up for tonight, Monday Night Football, is Chicago Bears versus the New England Patriots. And I don't care if it's Zappy or Mac Jones. I expect the Patriots with Belichick to have some kind of scheme placed together to stop Justin Fields. So I'm picking the Patriots to win this game, especially since this game is in New England. Now, the games of this week coming up, we have Baltimore going into Tampa. Tampa is desperate, but they seem so disjointed and Tom Brady's old and he's playing on a short week. I'm going to pick the Ravens to beat Tampa Bay in Tampa Thursday Night Football. We have an early game this week, people. 9:30 a.m. from, I believe it's Germany. You got the Broncos versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is the Jaguars' second home. Jacksonville at least looks halfway decent. Denver only has a defense. So I'm picking Jacksonville, where they're rooted for, in Europe to win this game. Carolina is playing at Atlanta. This is a tough one. Carolina, I don't know if they can back-to-back go on emotions and do anything good in Atlanta. So I'm going to pick Atlanta. The Bears are playing my Cowboys in Texas. I am definitely going with the Cowboys. The Dolphins are playing Detroit. I think the Dolphins turned the corner. They got Tua back. I got them winning on the road. Cardinals are playing Minnesota. I'm going to go with Minnesota. The Raiders are playing New Orleans. I'm taking another road team. I'm taking the Raiders. New England is playing the Jets in New Jersey. I'm going with the Jets. Pittsburgh is playing Philadelphia Eagles. I hate to say it, but I have to go with the Eagles. I think Pittsburgh gets buried and their season completely ends next week where they'll be 2-6. The Titans are playing Houston. I got Titans on the road. The Commanders are going into Indianapolis. Indianapolis they're a fighting team, but they make mistakes. Matt Ryan makes a lot of mistakes. I'm going to actually go with the Commanders to have a 2-game winning streak here. You got the 49ers versus the Rams in LA. The 49ers have owned the Rams. With an extra week of McCaffrey there, I am actually taking the 49ers on the road. And in a game that's, I don't really know how they travel, but the DK Metcalf thing being up in the air, you got the Giants going into Seattle. So I'm going to actually go with the Giants. Green Bay is going into Buffalo. I don't think that Buffalo, coming off a bye week, is going to lose to Green Bay. I think that Josh Allen has to beat Green Bay. That defense has to key on just stopping Aaron Jones, and they should be fine. And Cincinnati is going into Cleveland, the Battle of Ohio. I see Barrow, Chase, and Boyd beating Bichette, Hunt, and Chubbs. So I got Cincinnati winning this game. Now, bye weeks for next week is going to be the Chargers and the Chiefs. They get a bye week. So once again, just to close this bad boy out, 12-step programs, AA and NA, we know their popularity, but are they truly effective? Are they effective enough to bet your sobriety on? Are they effective enough to do what you need to do to get maybe your family back, get employment, get housing back under your feet, being able to maintain a job, a bank account, and be a responsible human being? And if they are, make a list. Make the list of what you consider their positives on one side, their negatives, or what they, not a negative, but what they lack, what you might need. Let's not forget about, I said this and I've stressed this, you might, if you're honest, you might need therapy or medication. You know, a fellow addict being your sponsor who has nothing but terms to kick at you might not be enough for you. You might really need a reason You might need detox. You might need hospitalization. You might need an ongoing licensed therapist. And these are things that you must look at, because peer support is great, but peer support when your life is on the line might not be good enough. And I'm going to thank you for listening to me. Like I said, you could always reach out to me. There's always a link to my website, which will have my email address where you can hit me up if you think I was right or you think I was wrong or you just want to say hello. I'm all for it. And I'm going to tell you, like I tell you each and every time, people, peace to you and peace to yours.